good morning to you. This is Petri here with you until 4 o'clock this morning. I forgot to mention that I'm very excited because at about 1:45, we might get him in a bit earlier actually, Sandro Monetti is in the building. He's actually right here, right now. Exciting. So I'll be chatting to Sandro, the man who knows everyone and everything about show business. So he'll be here in the studio with us. We normally talk to him in LA, so it's very exciting. He's actually over in London for his premiere of his film, which I'm going to tomorrow. Just to let you know that Italy's Democratic Party has conceded defeat in the country's election after an exit poll suggested that far-right leader Giorgia Meloni's alliance is leading the vote. The Democratic Party said it would be Italy's main opposition force after an exit poll indicated that the Meloni's Brothers of Italy party would win 22 to 26% of the vote. The right-wing coalition, because I said it's going to be a coalition government, have won 41 to 45% of the vote. She'll be the first ever female Prime Minister of Italy, should she be appointed to the job, and also the first far-right politician to become head of government in a major Eurozone economy, where others, of course, have toyed with the idea, and Hungary and Poland already lean in that direction. So let's talk now to Marco Colombo, who's a journalist and political analyst. Good morning to you, Marco.
Good morning, Patrick.
Extraordinary times in Italy.
Indeed. I'm here at the Home Minister, at the office of the Home Minister. They're recording the votes, as you can see behind me. It's quite shocking. It's, as you said, is a far-right win. Giorgia Meloni, a 45-year-old politician, the youngest minister. She's already been in the government with Berlusconi in 2008. So she's a well-known politician. She's a well-known face in Italian politics. She's actually been in politics all her life, from the age of 15. So that's not a surprise. The surprise, a party, Brothers of Italy, a party that was almost invented by her and a few other people, went from 4% in 2015 to 26% in 5 years. And the reason for this success is because they were the only party to be in opposition to Draghi. So they were out of all political parties, from the left to the right. They were the only party that said, we're not going to stick to the Draghi coalition government. So they were very anti-Europe. They voted against the measures that Europe, the money that Europe is giving to Italy for the COVID pandemic. They voted in favor of Orban very recently in the European Parliament. They're conservative, clearly. They're conservative. They have a social conservative agenda, but as you said, the far-right party, and it's quite, it's giving shockwaves to the European Commission, the European Union, and France and Germany have been looking very closely, and it's making a headline.
But to go from 4% only a few years ago to this astonishing, in the 20s percentage now, to be able to form a far-right coalition, what has happened to Italy that it is now leaning firmly to the right?
Well, it seems like the Italians are trying different parties at different elections. We have to remember that at the previous election, there was another winner, the Five Star Movement, championed by a comedian. He went from nowhere in 2008 to 34%. So it seems like the Italians are kind of fed up with the establishment. And every election, every general election, every 5 years, they try a new face, a new leader. This time they're going for a woman, as you said, the first woman, first Italian prime minister. She has to be appointed by the president, by the head of state, but she will be. She's leading a coalition that got 42% of the vote. She's got the overall majority in both the Senate and the lower house. Not only she has won an astonishing vote, she's leading a coalition where Berlusconi, a a guy in his 80s, a guy who's been in politics almost 30 years, is now relegated to a minority role. There is the League, which used to be the anti-immigrant quite...
It's Matteo Salvini.
Matteo Salvini.
He could actually protest at her becoming PM, though, couldn't he?
Well, not really, because basically she's got more votes. I mean, the Brothers of Italy, this new party, has been around only for 10 years, has more votes than Berlusconi and Salvini combined.
Right.
This is the real shocking result. And Giorgia Meloni, she's a leader, but she hasn't got. She hasn't been in power. She hasn't been governing the country. So she has to create a team. She has to bring some new faces. She has to rely on family. One of the top advisor, his brother-in-law. She's been mentioning a daughter. She's been mentioning a sister as people that have been supporting. She's been, it's worth remembering, her father left her when she was a 1-year-old. And she's been brought up by her mother. She comes from a working class family in southern Rome. She's been in politics all her life, but she's been a fighter. She's not somebody that is coming, a bit like Draghi. She's not coming from the institutions. She's not coming from an elite. She's a grassroots politician who's been fighting her battle. Of course, is a quite conservative agenda and quite interesting. She's been repositioning herself as a very strong ally of the US and she's been supporting Ukraine. So in the coalition, there's going to be a party, Meloni's party, the Brothers of Italy, which is pro-NATO, pro-US, and Salvini, who is pro-Putin and has been defying the sanctions. So it's going to be an interesting coalition.
She also wants to be a tax-cutting PM, doesn't she? Very much like our own, I think. It'd be interesting to see if those two women become friendly. But she does want to go in and cut taxes and do a very similar job, actually.
Yeah, in Europe, the Conservative Party and Brothers of Italy are in the same group. So when we say far right, it's far right for Italy. It's something new, but they are in Europe. They have the same agenda. She is they're interested in what is called a flat tax in Italy. So they're interested in reducing the tax for the big payers, but also they're interested in the welfare state. The power that the Five-Star Movement has created this reddito di cittadinanza, citizens' income, and especially in the South, a lot of people are relying on it. She wants to slash it. She wants to get rid of it. She actually wants to basically demolish everything that has been done in the last 5 years. So it is a quite.
She wants to demolish the welfare state.
She wants to get rid of this check that a lot of families in southern Italy are receiving. That's why you were just saying the Democratic Party lost, because the Democratic Party was not able to create a coalition with the other party, which is the Five-Star Movement. The Five-Star Movement, something like UKIP, has been exploding thanks to this comedian Beppe Grillo, and he got 33% of the vote at the last election. At this election, they still got 17%, so they lost half of their electorate, but they still retain power, especially in the South, where they're massive unemployment and people rely on this citizen income, which is basically a very generous welfare state. So if Meloni goes, as you said, like Liz Truss, and cutting the welfare state and cutting the tax, there's going to be a situation. Also, she wants to renegotiate. She wants to make a new deal regarding the European money. Italy is supposed to receive in the next 5 years 200 billion euros from Europe because of the COVID pandemic. Italy was the country that was most hit by the COVID pandemic. So she wants to renegotiate. She basically wants to sit down with Europe, a bit like Boris Johnson and Liz Truss has done, and say, okay, I'm the new person in charge here. I'm the new woman in charge. Let's sit down and let's go through the numbers and and especially the reforms that you're imposing us. She's been basically advocating that Europe is imposing reforms on Italy, which is true. And of course, Draghi was the head of the European Bank. So when we were in times of crisis, they put a European bureaucrat in charge of the government. And for a certain amount of time, he was able to receive money and spend it. But then he was given the kick in July, sudden election, and here we are a vote of protest for sure, a vote of get away with the elite, get away with the old, the Democratic Party has been in power more or less since Berlusconi resigned in 2011. So,
but could we see it? Could we see Italy? I mean, it seems that Meloni wants to go back and get that money from the EU. But could she also mount some kind of referendum for Brexit? An Italian exit from the EU? I don't know what that would be called. E-exit? I don't know.
Interesting enough, there was actually a party called Italexit that didn't even get 2% of the vote. That's the Italians do rely on European money. They're quite happy with the European Union. They are not happy with the European Union run by France and Germany, a bit like the Brits. So in a way, they want to be stronger at the European table. She has never mentioned that she wants to leave the European Union. She definitely wants to have a stronger position. It's worth remembering that she's a very good friend politically and personally of Orban. And Orban, who is also in the European Union, has been fighting the European Union on several issues. She's also pro-abortion. She's also absolutely anti-abortion, and she has a big issue with LGBT community. So,
but isn't this such a backward step for Italy? I mean, is this an embarrassment for Italy that okay, you say it's a protest vote, but it's a protest vote for a far right leaning political coalition. Isn't that embarrassing?
It is as shocking as if Le Pen would have won against Macron.
Exactly, yeah.
Which never happened. Twice Macron won the election, but each time there was speculation and fear in Europe and worldwide that a far right politician will get into power. It's worth remembering that Italy is the third most important country in the European Union. It's the second in manufacturing, is the founding member of the European Union in 1956, of NATO. It's clearly leading the coalition to support Ukraine. So that if Italy takes a step back, the whole of Europe will take a step back. The way the analysts and the politicians are saying, they're seeing the situation in Italy. It's a vote of protest against what has been. They want to see a change. Clearly, Italians are getting poorer. We do not have any oil. The energy crisis is hitting us very badly. They hope that this young woman will be able to bring some fresh energy, some fresh ideas. But it is very much socially and culturally a step back, a step into the past. Not as back as 100 years ago, the fascism. Not as back as
it's to be seen how any of these things would be implemented, because it depends on the implementation of a right-wing policy as to whether it becomes a fascist policy or not, surely.
Well, it's worth remembering that she's the leader of a coalition, and this coalition has been in power in 1994 and again in 2008, she's been in power 3 times, in 2001, 2008. So the difference was that that coalition was led by Berlusconi, part of the popular European. So it was basically the same party of Angela Merkel. So it was kind of moderate. This time the coalition is led from the right as opposed to from the centre, and Berlusconi has very minority stance. So we have to see how Meloni is going to, first of all, interact with European leaders. The German Chancellor supported the Democratic Party and said that it would have been a problem if Meloni won. The same thing, the European Commissioner, she basically said we'll have to deal with it, but it will be a bit of a problem. So clearly, it is going to be business as usual. The European Union is not going to fall apart because Meloni got elected. She will most likely be appointed the Prime Minister in the next few weeks. She has an overall majority, a very comfortable majority, enough to do reforms, but not to change the constitution. So she will be governing. She will be running the country in a very difficult time. Italy is not a war, but we're clearly supporting Ukraine. Italy is going through a tough economic and energy crisis. So it's clearly going to be a tough time on her hands. She hasn't got much experience in governing the country. She will have to gather a good team. She will have to put a good government together. It's likely that she's going to use a lot of people that have experience. There are rumors, there are she's going to get somebody from the European Bank to run the Treasury. She's going to get a former ambassador and former Ministry of Foreign Affairs to run Foreign Affairs. So she's going to be a balanced government in which there's going to be some political figures, and then there's going to be some people that have actually been in power before. They know how to run the country. It's not going to be just improvisation.
So she's not really going to have the time then to muck around with, like you said, the Constitution regarding gay rights or women's rights over their body. She's not going to have time for that, is she, at the moment?
Or she has in the regions. The Brothers of Italy have won some of the regions. Italy has 22 regions, and in one region specifically, the Marche, where the governor is from, Brothers of Italy, they've been making abortion tougher. So they've been, like Orban, like the woman has to listen to the heartbeat. They cannot change the law. There will be. I mean, they could potentially, but there's a risk of a referendum. It's easier for them just to basically culturally and socially change the attitude and make it more difficult for women. So it is something between what happened in Poland and Hungary, which are democracy. There was a vote there. It's nothing like Russia. It's nothing like a dictatorship. It's a popular vote. She will be tested whether she's gonna. She's actually said today when she just a half an hour ago I was listening live. It's time for responsibility. So even though she's a quite radical, firebrand politician, she might go for a moderate view and run a conservative party, like the one in Britain, with the view that clearly she knows that she might get into tough waters if she doesn't follow the path.
Will she run into trouble with Salvini, with Matteo Salvini, in a coalition government regarding Russia? Because that if he's pro Putin and anti Italy, spending the sort of money again like we're all doing to support Ukraine at the moment, could she run into trouble with him?
Well, it's worth remembering that Salvini is so connected to Putin's party that they're actually in an alliance, in a political alliance. Salvini's party, the League, and Putin's party. And Salvini was supposed to travel to Russia during the war in May, paid by the Russian embassy in Rome. That was stopped. So, and Salvini actually was on the Red Square once wearing a T-shirt with Putin face on it. So, it's quite shocking the way Salvini is being connected to Putin. He might not have been able. Salvini wanted desperately to be in this building where I'm now, in the Home Office, because he has a very strong stance against immigrants. He's actually been tried in court because he stopped some boats and some ships full of immigrants to arrive to Italy. So I was reading today, he might not be able to come back to this office. He wanted desperately to be running the police, to be running the Coast Guard. He might not be able to do it because he didn't fare very well. He got less than 10%. And also Meloni doesn't want to show that she puts in government in such a powerful position, somebody who's so close to Putin. Salvini basically is the bad guy in this coalition. Berlusconi, funny enough, has got a kind of even though he's a guy in the mid-80s and he has said something very silly recently, saying that all Putin wanted was to replace Zelensky with some very wise people. And he said that 2 days before the election, which again, it's the way Berlusconi talks about, political and foreign affairs. But Berlusconi is a middle ground, and he actually even said, if you're going to go against the sanction against Russia, I'm going to walk out of the government. So this coalition, which was a very good, powerful political coalition to win the elections, is going to have a tough time once it's government, and once they're going to have on their desk all the different operations and all the different. I mean, we're still supporting Ukraine through weapons. Salvini is absolutely against it. We're supporting Ukraine by boycotting the Russian gas. Salvini said we should be buying Russian gas from Putin so that we're not going to be cold in the winter. I think what Meloni got was a very strong mandate to basically run the government the way she wants it, and Salvini is just going to be on the sideline.
Just one more thing. Is it because that she seems to be the lighter side of right wing then that she's going to be PM?
Well, she's a mother. She's been very passionate about saying that she's a mother. She's a woman, even though she's not a feminist. She has been making a very, what is important for her is God, the country, and the family. So she's going to be the person that brings these values back to the political agenda. And she's an amicable face. She's kind of funny, and she is. She's somebody that 25% of Italians relate to.
Very interesting times for Italy. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. It's been fascinating talking to you. Marco Colombo there. Thank you. Journalist and political analyst. Stay with us. More to come.